Hey y'all, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and today I'm joined by Thomas.
Aloha, everybody.
And today we have much to talk about, including all the canceled shows. We're going to update you on the Jonathan Majors information. We're going to be discussing Marvel and the Guardians of the Galaxy, so much more. We're going to first start off with Thomas. We got the question of the week. What is your favorite sci-fi show?
Yeah. So I think this is a great question. What I thought of right off the bat, there's this one of my favorite sci-fi shows ever, and I really like mind-bendy shows.
Mm-hmm.
And during the pandemic, I discovered this show, and it like quickly became one of my favorites. It's called Dark on Netflix. Have you watched it?
I haven't, but they think they came out with another show from the same team. It's like in the same universe.
Yes, 1899. And it was one of those shows that already got canceled too. But
of course,
for some reason, I loved Dark so much. It was just such an interesting concept about how, the present, you can go back in the past to affect the present, but also the past can affect the future. And so there was all this like really crazy physics, like, I don't know, metaphysics or whatever you want to call it, quantum physics involved that the writers and the producers got this idea from and then turned into this like emotional story. So, yeah, I know it's such a neat thing. But for new shows, my new favorite sci-fi shows, I would have to say Severance. And I would have to say The Peripheral on Amazon Prime. It's based off a book that's really, really good too.
I love Severance so much, man. I keep trying to tell people about it, and they're like, oh, it's just okay. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the best ending to a first season I've ever seen in my life. Like, that's so perfect. Yeah,
okay. So when people say they don't like Severance, for me, I'm like, did you get past the second episode? And people are like, oh, no, I didn't. I'm like, you did not give it a fair shot. Get past the second episode. It's literally laying the groundwork for the first two episodes, which I know is a big investment for people. But then it ramps up like crazy after the second episode. So
good.
Watch Severance, people. It's worth it.
The final episode reveals are just mind-blowing after mind-blowing. It's so freaking good.
Yes.
Please watch Severance.
I know it has one of the best end of the season episodes of any show that I can think of in recent memory.
And I like, not to spoil anything, but they actually pay you off. Like, you think they were going to cut it short. No, they tell you what's actually happened. And I just love that. Okay.
Right.
No spoilers, though.
Yeah, no spoilers.
I'm so close to spoiling it. For me, Star Trek Voyager. No surprise. You guys all know that about me. So I'm boring like that. But we do have a lot of responses both on Instagram and Twitter. Over on Instagram, we have Lori Time. Said I would have to say Gundam. I didn't even think about Gundam as a sci-fi.
Oh, nice.
Giant robots, awesome action. Yeah, that's a total good. Those old toys for Gundam were epic. Maybe want to watch that. Oh my
god, Gundam was one of the shows that got me into anime. And if you guys listen to the Joystick Show, you heard of Drake. Drake, that's like his favorite anime. And yeah, you're right. I didn't think of anime counting as a sci-fi show, but it is. It's like 5 kids in space with spacesuits and future technology protecting the world. That's 100% a sci-fi show. Yeah.
Yeah, just didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Smitty, he does the LAN parties. Actually, I was interviewed by them last month. So guys, go check that out. LAN parties, LAN. Smitty says this is tough for him, but he said he would have to say like Battlestar Galactica or The Expanse. I haven't watched The Expanse, but man, that has a huge fan base.
It really does. Yeah, some people who I didn't even think were into sci-fi, like The Expanse, I might need to give it another shot. I've tried to watch, I was like 3 episodes in. Maybe that's not enough, but I wanted to like it more than what I saw. I know, like, didn't like a different network take it over, though? Didn't like Amazon Prime or something like take it over?
I think Amazon Prime did take it over now that you're saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard it gets like exponentially better at that point. So maybe you have to just like, again, lay the groundwork, you get into it, and then you're sucked in.
Another show to add to the list. I've got so much stuff to watch. It's crazy. Keeping Up with the Kardashians. By the way, guys, these are friends of ours on Instagram. It's Kardashians totally as in. What's that?
I was like totally sci-fi.
Yeah. Kardashians is spelled like the space race from Star Trek. So it's a Star Trek group. They say Deep Space Nine, the stories, relationships. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was the name. Oh, like my favorite sci-fi show is Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
The name of the group is Keeping Up with the Kardashians, spelt with Kardashians from Star Trek. Yeah.
Okay, I totally misunderstood what was going on there. I was like, okay, I see what this person's trying to do.
Let me go further. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Kardashians,
awesome.
I guess is a better way to say it, not Kardashians.
Okay,
couple more. Let's go through a couple more here because this one is one of my favorites and I totally forgot about it. Tamalach and Watch If You Can both said Firefly, which was canceled after just one season. That's bananas.
Right. Yeah, my sister loved it. And then she went into the movie. I forgot what the movie was called.
Serenity.
Serenity, yep. And she was like, it's so good. I'm like, yep, I never watched it.
They killed my favorite character in the movie, and I was so pissed.
Damn.
But like one of the, like, Sci-Fi's got so many good MacGuffins. One of them is that there's a planet where I don't remember why, but they like got so lazy that they just like stopped breathing. And it was so freaking cool. Yeah, it's just some cool Sci-Fi stuff. Two more. We got Ken Turner said Babylon 5, which I remember watching that in the 90s. And that's one of them that they're bringing back right now. And then Cinema Medicine said Stargate SG-1. So that's another one. Like Kevin, I think that's probably his favorite, if not Deep Space Nine. So a lot of really good ones there, guys. Some of them I totally forgot about, so I appreciate that. And then I'm adding stuff to my viewing list already. That's pretty great.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and get into our quickies here. Beetlejuice 2 is set to arrive September 6, 2024. Matter of fact, we just learned that Willem Dafoe is also joining the cast, and he's going to be a police officer in the afterlife.
Oh, there you go. Some like, what is it, R.I.P.D. or whatever? Like,
which I watched and kind of liked. It was like Men in Black, but nobody else watched that movie, I think.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, William Dafoe is a plus for any show or movie.
Really, it's going to be good. I mean, they're casting some really good people for this, let alone the originals as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hollow Knight Silksong got delayed to later 2023. If you're waiting for this game, you already know that it's been delayed a few times. That's how it is. James Gunn said that the best way to watch Guardians of the Galaxy, which is so good, Volume 3 is on ScreenX. Are you familiar with ScreenX?
Is ScreenX the one where I'm thinking of like 4DX, where they have like sound and like smells and like mist? Is that ScreenX or is that something different?
No, ScreenX is even cooler in my opinion. It's where there's one screen in the middle and two screens on your sides.
Oh, yeah.
And he filmed it that wide. He filmed everything that wide for Guardians of the Galaxy.
That does sound cool. Oh, shoot. All right, well, my wife wants to go watch it. Now I know how I'm going to pitch it to her. I'm like,
you got to find one of those screens.
Yeah, we're going to go watch it in ScreenX, though. That'd be awesome.
Up in Natomas, they have one. I was looking it up, and that's actually where we're watching, or Squeeze is watching Fast X in a couple days. But yeah,
Fast X and ScreenX.
I wonder, that'd be really cool, because then you have the cars next to you while you're racing.
Yeah.
But the one they're showing is, that fight scene that's in like the biological area, the biological space station. They're showing like the main fight is here. Yeah, but then like, can you imagine like you're watching the main fight here, but then Drax is stabbing somebody on this screen over here?
Right. Mantis is jumping on somebody on the right side or something. Yeah. Oh man, that'd be cool.
I have to see this.
Yeah.
I freaking love James Gunn. Nintendo says the Switch replacement won't be out until at least April 2024. So they didn't say that exactly. What they announced was that they're not coming out with a new system for the next like 2 quarters or whatever it was. The math works out till April 2024 is the closest we can get one. And then lastly, just to get this one in real quick, we'll go with Disney Plus and Hulu are going to be combining because Disney is buying the rest of Hulu. And so from what it sounds like is there will not be a price increase on the app. They're basically going to use the Star app system. So if you guys are from Canada, we have a lot of listeners from Europe and Brazil and whatnot. You guys have like an app, I believe it's called Star. It's going to be kind of like that for everybody now. And it'll have all the Hulu content and all the Disney Plus content in one place. So we win for sure.
Yeah, with no price increase, yeah, why not? That's like a no-brainer.
Yeah,
I'd
actually take it even with the price increase if I'm being honest with you, like because I use Hulu all the time. So if you're adding that Disney Plus library, I'm in.
Yeah, I want to say I wouldn't, but I probably would as well because we have Hulu. Like my wife gets the Hulu and I get the Disney Plus. So if it was just one thing, that would honestly help us out. Yeah, that'd be for like $2 more. Yeah, we'll split it, babe.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Oh man, I watch Hulu so much. That's my jam.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the news here. We have so many shows being canceled right now. This is how things work this time of year. Generally, it's one of those things where you kind of wait till all the bad news comes in and then you just jump through it. For the network shows, I'm just going to shoot through these real quick, and then you stop me if there's any of them that you like. ABC, we're losing Alaska Daily, Big Sky, The Company You Keep, and The Goldbergs. CBS, we're losing East New York and True Lies. True Lies, they invested a lot of money into. And they canceled it after just one season. Yeah.
Ugh.
The CW, we're losing Kung Fu, Tom Swift, Walker Independence, and the Winchesters. And for Fox, we're losing Call Me Kat, Fantasy Island, Monarch, and The Residents. This is normal, but one of the things that's affecting this, of course, is the WGA strike. We're seeing like expanded reality TV show schedules. Matter of fact, Survivor, which we have a podcast dedicated to that, is going from 1 hour to an hour and a half.
What's that? What's the Survivor podcast called, Frank?
Called Outlast Podcast, guys. Check it out. The Twitter account's Outlast Podcast 1. It's a very good podcast.
Nice.
It's actually the second biggest one on the network right now. So go check it out, guys.
Right on. So out of you listed all the shows that got canceled, right?
Yeah, for Network One so far. There's probably going to be more to come, but this was like a big batch that came out. Yeah.
Yeah. So out of all the shows that you listed, I only seen a few episodes of a couple. One, The Goldbergs, and 2, Alaska Daily. Those are the only 2 shows out of that list that I have seen, and I have not seen more than 2 episodes of each of those shows. So, not surprised. Like, I feel bad, for all the people that put in hard work for the show, but sorry, I didn't see any of them. I know it gets my attention.
Yeah, like Call Me Kat was one of them that I know was popular, but it was just kind of just another sitcom and on Fox, which is
it had the girl from Big Bang Theory, right?
Exactly.
Like
yeah. Maya Bialik, and she's now basically hosting Jeopardy, so she's busy as it is. So we don't really need her to be doing 2 things. It's just a shame. The other thing to mention too is the CW is also like it's pretty much finished now with the Arrowverse. That's a huge loss of CW's lineup. I mean, I don't even know what's left on that. Riverdale's done too, like that finished.
Right.
So there's nothing on that station anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah, I wonder who owns the CW, because they're gonna have to. If it's Warner Brothers, then why not give James Gunn a chance to make some shows on there? This is no slight to Greg Berlanti. I think what he's done with the Berlanti verse in DC was fantastic. I think Flash, no pun intended, had run its course. And, we had seen what they had done with Arrow, and, Stephen Amell was out, but then he came back for a few last episodes. I don't know anybody that watched Legends of Tomorrow. I don't know anybody that watched Stargirl. I think that they had some great episodes in there, but, let James Gunn run it over with, shows that will connect to the DCU. I think that'd be awesome if it is owned by Warner Brothers. I don't know. That would be my suggestion. Just
could you see? Because I think Greg Berlanti did a great job. First off, I like Legends of Tomorrow. It's one of my favorites of them. And,
nice.
Supergirl was okay.
Yeah. I like that actress, though. She was an awesome Supergirl.
She was a very good Supergirl. You're 100% right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they actually did John's justice. So I was happy with that, too.
Yeah, that's cool.
What if, like, they said, hey, Greg Berlanti, you're going to reset the Arrowverse. Maybe not be Arrow, but you reset it. And now it has to tie in with the DCU.
Ooh, gets reset post Flash.
Yeah.
Post the Flash. Ooh, I'm so on board with that. The only thing that I hope they would keep, and I really do like this show, and if you haven't watched it, it's one of the best Superman shows I think I've watched. I didn't, I kind of remembered the one in the 90s, but man, it's so freaking good. But Superman and Lois, I really do like that show. Like, the special effects in it are some of the best special effects for a TV show that I've seen.
In general, the CW has figured out how to make cheap special effects. Like, sometimes they look cheap, but they're like, for a TV show, it's not bad. For a CW show, of course.
Yeah. Like they did, but even compared to the Flash, I mean, even compared to some of the Marvel stuff that came out, Superman Lois special effects are freaking good. Like, I highly recommend it, man. And Superman, I obviously respect the character. I respect the history of it. Like, there's so much I do love about Superman, but he's not my favorite hero. But the guy who plays Superman in this is awesome. He gets Superman so right for me, and the way they do Smallville is really cool. Again, if you haven't watched it, do check out Superman Lois, because it's I think it's really freaking good.
It is a really good show. I would like to see them grab some of the lesser known or maybe easier shows to make. Like Constantine did 1 season. Greg Berlanti did Constantine for 1 season with Matt Ryan, and it was fantastic. Yeah. I think it rivaled the movie, guys, and I know we're getting another Constantine movie. It's going to be an Elseworld story now. But I would say give Matt Ryan his Constantine back. It was so good that they just brought him on Legends of Tomorrow, and he's now the voice of all the Constantine animated movies, because that's now our Constantine, just from 1 season. So, just give him the show back. I think that would be a really good one.
That's awesome. Yeah. Didn't that kind of happen with Lucifer? you know, like he kind of went away, then went to another network, and everybody was like, Lucifer is
Netflix
really
picked it up.
freaking good. You should watch it.
It got better on Netflix from what I'm understanding. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm super on board with that. I've heard news, and this is just a rumor. I don't know if this is true, but that Greg Berlanti felt a little slighted by some of the DC news. And I think he did create an amazing DC universe for a long time where people were kind of divided on the Snyderverse and we weren't getting a Snyder cut. I think he kept some of those DC characters alive and top of mind for a lot of people. So yeah, I hope they find a place for him in this next chapter.
Greg Berlanti, man, we totally respect you over here because you, I think, created a better DC universe than we got in the movies with a far smaller budget. Like the entire purpose of those shows was not to make money for CW; it was to make money off of the Netflix deals. So that was the whole point. They were cool losing money on CW, airing it on CW because I knew it's going to go to Netflix. We're going to be fine. Why HBO or Max or whatever you want to call the new app can't do that? It's just crazy to me. And I just think that there's so many DC properties that, oh God, there's so many small heroes that really deserve their own shows.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
so
you know why? Because Zaslav made $250 million last year, and he's like, yeah, we can't spend $50 million somewhere else. So, yeah, that's probably why.
Oh, Zaslav.
Yeah.
By the way, James Gunn recently came out because people keep saying like, oh, he's the new Kevin Feige. He's like, just so you guys know, Peter Safran's really the new Kevin Feige. Like, I'm just the creative guy. So they took Kevin Feige's job and they split it in two: the business guy and the creative guy. So all the like paying for stuff is Peter's job. Making a cohesive story is James Gunn's side of things, which is how I'd want it. So, but I just thought that was interesting because I know we always kind of just pitch it as James Gunn's universe, and I got to remember that like poor Peter Safran, he's not a famous guy or whatever, but he's trying his best.
I'm sure he's one of the most popular guys in Hollywood right now. I'm sure,
Yes.
you know, I mean, everybody knows James Gunn, but I mean, James Gunn has said like, you know, I wouldn't be here without him. He's like one of my best friends and like best partners. So yeah, I'm sure, you know, like if you can't get to James, you definitely want to go to Peter right now.
And there's the council we've talked about before. There's a council of like 6 people that James Gunn put together that's kind of crafting each of the movies. And on that council is Tom Taylor. So
Yeah.
I'm good. And specifically Tom Taylor's Supergirl is the one that's being used for everything. So it's like thumbs up from Frank, man. That's perfect.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about Marvel side of things. We haven't really talked about the story much because we wanted to wait till there's more facts coming out. But we're at the point now where there's some rumors that are actually affecting geekdom. So we're going to go ahead and talk about this. So Jonathan Majors, of course, he had a dispute. What would you call it? What was it?
Yeah, an incident with an
incident
with an ex-girlfriend, let's say, until we till we know if it's an exact I don't know, problem or not, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, how do we talk legal terms? I need to bring in my wife, the attorney, to give me the right wording here.
So just before we go too far, his legal team does say he's innocent, but he has been dropped by his management and PR agency in addition to several upcoming projects. So that's kind of the current state of Jonathan Majors. There has been video stuff that's out that shows things and doesn't show things and all kinds of stuff. So we're not going into that. We'll discuss that a little bit more when we actually have hardcore facts and proof. Now, to the marvel of it. It has been rumored, and it's kind of being rumored by the right people, that they're working on recasting Jonathan Majors. Not that it's for sure happening, but they're prepared for it. And the fact that he lost his PR agent kind of shows that it's going to happen. How would Marvel be able to handle this? Because first off, they already filmed Loki season 2, so we're going to have Jonathan Majors there. This is such a big move. How are they going to handle this?
I don't think it's going to be as big of an issue in a way in terms of his character, because we're in a multiverse saga. Like, that's the thing. Yeah. And we've already seen in other movies and shows already what a multiverse looks like for different characters, right? Loki has a female version. He has an alligator version of himself. He has a black version of himself. Like, there's all these different versions of Loki that have already worked, just like there's already different versions of Spider-Man that have already worked. I don't think that'll be the issue. Now, the thing that I think that will be harder is Jonathan Majors, regardless, you know, and I don't know if he's guilty or not. We don't know all the facts. If he is, like, I'm not on his side or anything, but I'm just saying, as far as his talent goes as an actor, he's so damn talented. It would be really hard to replace him. Yeah. But I think that there are other as talented black actors out there that can. And so I'm not for it. Like, I'm not saying we should replace him now. It's like, no, but if they have to, there's other people who can fill that role.
Right. And then the way you talk about the different versions of Loki, I think that might be the place to do it. I think they could probably refilm the last couple scenes or whatever to kind of be like that. I think the hardest part for him is they kind of bit too much off, which I think they did anyways. At the end of Ant-Man, when they showed the room full of different Jonathan Majors, like if they didn't show that scene, then they could have been like, yeah, there's 5 different ones that look like Jonathan Majors, but all of these ones look like these guys. Like that,
That's so
you
true.
could do that. That would have been easier.
You're so right. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting choice, and they they went heavy into Jonathan Majors, and by all accounts, everything was going good. Like maybe in another timeline that would have been a good choice, but giving themselves a little bit of flexibility to have other characters or people who don't necessarily look like Jonathan Majors be Kang might have been a good choice as well. I know we got some alien one looking characters in there. I think that there's another actor that can do it. I think you're right. I think Loki would be a great place for them to try to change if they have to course correct for whatever legal reasons come up. If they have to course correct, that's a great place to do it. And thus, we've already got the information that Loki's getting pushed back till what is it, November now? October, November. Maybe that's what they're trying to figure out.
I do like the idea of them kind of throwing in some extra fun Loki's on. Like, can we get alligator Loki? Or no, not Loki. I keep saying Loki. But,
alligator Kang. Yeah.
Alligator Kang. Like how fun. Kang. Crocodile. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Cake. Yeah. That would be kind of fun too. So like a little wink at like, hey, we're going to see some changes coming up.
Right.
Stuff like that to happen. And there's a lot of really good actors out there. People are asking for the High Evolutionary to have been a Kang variant. What are your thoughts on that one?
All right. I try to be very political in a way about how I say things. I'm just going to say it like, I think that's a dumb idea. I kind of hate that idea. And the reason is Chukwudi Iwuji did such a good job as High Evolutionary. He's so unique. I want him to just be that character. Maybe it's selfish. Maybe it's, a bias, but I think he deserves to like really shine as his own character and not be compared to somebody else who's previously done the role, aka Jonathan Majors. It's like he's this character, like let him be that. And again, there's so many other talented Black actors out there, just talented actors in general that could fill maybe not exactly Jonathan Majors' role, but that would be a good substitute if for whatever reason we can't see Jonathan Majors anymore. It's like there's a lot of people out there that could do it. Yeah, you don't need to like taint somebody else to kind of fill that gap. Even though he did a great job.
He did a great job. Oh, he did fantastic. It's almost like I taint somebody else. I get that, but it's almost like asking him to save something that then would get his hands dirty. He would then, I see what you're saying, then be tainted by that. But man,
it just wouldn't. It would be a dangerous position for Chukwudi. Like he could do it for sure, and he would probably do it great. But then we're comparing him to Jonathan Majors, and then it's like that whole Kang position is a little bit tainted, and then you have to explain why the High Evolutionary looks like Kang. It's a lot of story points that you'd have to solve in an already muddled real life situation. That doesn't sound like a win to me for anybody.
In defense of, I also think they shouldn't do it, but in defense of it, I do think it does make sense that Kang would have a variant that thinks like he can make a perfect future by going back into the past and helping evolution on in the right direction. Like that sounds like a Kang move.
That's true. Yeah, I do. I can see it that way too. But it would feel, people would know the real life drama and it would feel so shoehorned in there. I don't know if you'd have to do a hell of a job explaining that in the story without having Jonathan Majors to like back it up.
Yes.
To like kind of connect those dots. So, I think they could do it. There's amazingly talented writers at Marvel, but, oh man, I would hate to have to try to do that.
I don't envy any of the writers right now that have to deal with that. I mean, right now they're striking, but afterwards,
Or
any of the casting people.
Problem.
We were just talking about Fantastic Four with somebody on Twitter, and they were saying like everything's on this one. And I'm like, yeah, and I have no envy for the person who has to cast that movie because whomever they pick, people will talk smack about. I mean, it could be literally a guy named Reed Richards. It's still not going to be good enough. You know, that's just how it is.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
of it.
That's gonna be tough.
Marvel fandom, it's toxic as all hell, but I love it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let us know what you guys think we should do with the Jonathan Majors casting, and if you have anybody you think would be a good fit for it, let us know on the social medias. We're going to be moving on to something different here. We're going to try a discussion about something that's not necessarily news oriented. Kind of give some background on this. Of course, Thomas and I do Challenge Accepted, really good podcast. You guys should check out. We got some big goals over there.
Oh yeah.
And for the most part, we record maybe half an hour to an hour and talk for like 2 hours afterwards about stuff.
Yeah, or an hour before.
Or an hour before, yeah. So let's talk about some of the things we were talking about. First of all, or the main thing we're going to be talking about this time is how great Guardians it was. Can you go ahead and explain what we're discussing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, right, we were kind of catching up to talk about whatever the episode that we were recording, but we hadn't in person, or at least online over Zoom, how we do, had talked about what we thought about Guardians of the Galaxy. Like you and me were texting back and forth like, oh my God, man, the movie's going to be so great after the theater. But we got into the whole conversation of, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy, God, it's so amazing. God, we love it because of X, Y, and Z. And then you brought up, you know, it's like, hey, do you think that's the reason why people didn't like Multiverse of Madness as much, or didn't like Thor Love and Thunder as much, or whatever, because of different points? And then we kind of had this really awesome discussion, and I'm like, man, we got to put this into an episode because it's such a good conversation. And what did Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 do so well that while people are calling it the mid CU, or, you know, the MCU that's mid, why? And so we were kind of going back and forth, and that's where this segment came up.
Yeah, so we're going to be discussing what Marvel can learn from the Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think it's easy for us to kind of just talk about what we love. And one of the things that I loved about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was, the characters. This was the first thing for me, because James Gunn does such a good job of humor and like juxtaposing to another director in the MCU, Taika Waititi, who's one of my favorite directors. I have a signed poster on my wall from Thor Ragnarok. Like, I love Taika.
That's awesome.
But like Thor Love and Thunder for me didn't work. And this is why I realize, because the characters in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 were in on the joke, where I felt like Thor in Thor Love and Thunder was the joke. So my thing is, like, I don't want him to be the button. I want them to be in on it, unless, and this is the caveat, they were in that role from the beginning, like a Drax. So Drax, you know, was known as the dumb guy, whatever. And then they flip it on its head, as you see in Volume 3, where Thor wasn't a joke in the first movie. He was arrogant, but he was still a badass. He still was one of the most powerful Avengers. He was able to take down the Hulk. And slowly as time went on for me, I felt like by Thor Love and Thunder, he kind of was just big, goofy guy. He was doing splits and kicking. And for me, that kind of dimmed, which is point two, the stakes of it all. And also it turned him into a joke rather than him creating the jokes. And
in defense of Thor and the humor, the first movie, I feel like the humor came from him not understanding Earth. And so like silly things like him slamming the mug and stuff down. But then as he learns Earth and becomes more Earth-like, I think the joke is that he's kind of a lighthearted frat dude. And I think that I think he was always that. Like on Asgard, he was always that. I think we see that in the first movie as well. And then when he comes to Earth, it's like, that doesn't fit well with us. That's what's funny. And now that he does fit well with us, now the joke is, I'm a frat dude that's like party my way. I don't know if that transition was done well enough.
Yeah,
I think it's a little jarring.
Yeah, you watched the What If cartoon that they released?
So like, good, yeah.
I felt like he just became his character from What. Yeah, but that was the joke, and that was the joke. Rather than him being like, I thought Thor Ragnarok, and this kind of brings me to point two, is that there needs to be stakes, like true stakes for the main character. And another thing with Thor Love and Thunder, again, well, this is kind of skipping ahead, but the villain was awesome. I love Gore, and I love Gore in the comics, because you see how Gore is going around the world and you see him slowly fall apart. I still think Christian Bale did a great job, of showing what he lost. But you see in this comic series how Gore is going around and eliminating all the gods in all the different worlds. And I felt like there wasn't enough stakes for Thor in Thor Love and Thunder. I never once, for me, and I'm not saying if you felt this way, I'm super happy for you. If you like Thor Love and Thunder, I'm happy for you. Like, I really am glad. But for me personally, I never felt like he was in any real danger. Like, I never felt like he was potentially going to die. Like,
so
I always...
why is that? In Guardians 3, I went in thinking we're going to see somebody die. I think that leans in on it. And so the entire time, every single thing that happens, I'm like, oh, Drax is going to die here. Oh, this one's going to die here. Nebula's going to die there. Meanwhile, like in, for example, Multiverse of Madness, we literally saw a temple crush Scarlet Witch, and absolutely nobody believes that she's dead. By all accounts, she should be dead. But none of us believe that happened. You know, like, oh, there's a little bit of flash there. She's probably alive. She is alive. We know she's alive because she's a big enough character and stuff like that. We know she's alive. But yet in Guardians, and I think this goes to the idea that one of the big reasons I think Guardians works over any other movie in the Phase 4 and now Phase 5 is the fact that it's a James Gunn movie first and an MCU movie second. It's not interconnected to everything as much. There are definitely references to, like, hey, you know, Nebula was tortured by her dad, stuff like that. But for the most part, it keeps to itself. And we went in knowing this is the end of the trilogy. So we didn't know what was going to happen, but we know there's going to be closure. And unfortunately, when we're watching Marvel movies now, there is no promise for closure. Because the idea is that there won't be. The idea is that this has to keep going on to keep making money for Marvel. But Guardians went and told you there's not going to be this team again. And are we willing to sacrifice people like Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, Thor, for there to be real stakes in these movies again?
Yes, that's a good question. And I think that you kind of touched on a few things for me. And one of them is respect to the character's history and the trauma that they've been through. And what James Gunn did really well with the characters in Guardians of the Galaxy was that, like, we were able to see the trauma. Like, we've seen Quill go through losing his mom and then, like, finding his dad. Turns out his dad's a dick, losing the dad, and then losing his real dad, which was Yondu. And we'd known that Rocket had lost something, but we didn't know what. And in this movie, you see what he lost. I mean, he lost his only family that he had to begin with. He lost his innocence because he was this scared little creature that was then given consciousness. We saw that he almost lost his life. And so there was this fear of, like, whoa, he's lost so much. Don't let him lose his life too. So I think stakes are so important. They have to be there so that you care if the hero wins or not. And then also it brings me to something that you were alluding to, and I think it was right on the border, is that the villains should have a personal connection to the main character. And I felt like Gore didn't necessarily have a personal connection to Thor. I guess he needed the hammer, but there was no other reason he wanted to kill Thor other than, well, you're a god and you're not going to care about me. And this is kind of how I felt about Ant-Man too. Kang didn't really care who Ant-Man was. He's just like, I want you to just get me this thing so I can get out of here. If anything, Kang had more of a connection to Janet. The main character. So I want
she should be the main character.
yeah, right. I mean, so that's the thing. Like, I felt like for some of these other movies, there was no connection from the main characters to the villain.
Yeah, Namor knew their dad, not even anybody that was alive at the time. If you go to all of them, matter of fact, one of the biggest highlights from Scarlet Witch versus Doctor Strange is that it was like Scarlet Witch was betraying him. That's the only thing that really felt cool. And so then it was like, oh, Scarlet Witch is now bad Scarlet Witch, which we know comic book wise, she flips that switch often. But this was the first time of seeing, like, oh no, she's actually, because, you know, when she's under Ultron's, that was like not even really Scarlet Witch at all yet. So this was it. And I like the idea that that connection's important and also kind of feels grounded in a way too, where it's not just like Thanos snapping his finger to erase all of mankind. Like, High Evolutionary is deleting planets. He is killing a lot of people.
Yeah.
And there's a question of like, hey, when Thanos switched his finger, how many people died from High Evolutionary's people? Whatever.
Good point.
But he is killing a lot more, but for somehow it still felt very grounded and small in a way. Way, you know.
Yeah, because they
just destroyed the planet.
Yeah, you're totally right. I think the High Evolutionary, we see from the start of the movie what he did to Rocket. And then we're brought
Yes.
into how Rocket is kind of handling present day. And then Rocket gets attacked, Rocket's almost dying. And then you see the rest of the Guardians around him. At this point, they are all family. I mean, they say it
Yes.
at the end of volume 2. So they can't let their brother die. And right there, it's so personal to the rest of the Guardians. Like the whole adventure is around trying to save Rocket, and then Rocket's alive. And now he's like, I got to take down this guy who made my life miserable. Like, yes, he gave me consciousness, but he is the reason why I'm doing all of these things. Like why I am the way I am, why I think the way I think. And I've never had a chance to pay him back. And so
just real quick, let's make sure we avoid spoilers. I want to throw that out there too. Let's try to avoid spoilers. We haven't said any yet.
Yeah, we haven't. Okay, I'll try my best.
We're good. We haven't
But
said any yet.
the stakes are personal there. You're right. I think other than Wanda, which again, Wanda is not even directly trying to go against Doctor Strange. Wanda is just trying to go to a different galaxy or a different universe to get her kids. Doctor Strange just happens to be in the way.
Matter of fact, the thing that didn't work in that movie, as much as I like the character from the comic books, is America Chavez. And it was just because she was like thrown in. She didn't have, oh, I need to borrow your abilities is the only thing. It's like, you know how many other things can jump dimensions that you've already touched and influenced?
Yeah.
Like, why would you go to that? Like, go to Asgard. There's all kinds of toys in that basement that can do it. And it's like, why are we going to that again? Like, I don't know, man.
Which is a perfect point that leads me into point 4. And last point. The main character's actions should stop the villain. So I'll give you an example. In Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania, who stops Kang? Like you could technically say, well, they threw him into that bubble thing, whatever. But what weakened him and ultimately brought his power down was the ants that Michael Douglas's character brought in, which was Scott Lang. Or no, not Scott Lang. Why can't I think of it?
It was Hank Pym.
Hank Pym. Sorry, Hank Pym.
Yeah.
So it was technically Hank Pym that kind of helped save him, plus MODOK. What Ant-Man did at the end was just kind of give the final push. He didn't really stop him. We don't even know if he's defeated. We don't know if they killed him. All I know is that they were able to stop him for that moment and then went back to the real world. And they don't know if they fixed anything. I think the whole ending of it was trying to give you this feeling of they didn't actually fix anything. Thor, Love and Thunder, same thing. Like Eternity is kind of the one that, makes Gore realize, like, hey, I'm over, but at least I can bring my daughter back. It's not really Thor that stops Gore. It's not really Ant-Man that stops Kang. It's not really Doctor Strange that stops Wanda. It's all these other characters that are coming in that happen to be there. And I know you could say the main character is the one influencing it, but in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, it is the Guardians, it's Rocket, it's Peter, it's Drax that stop the High Evolutionary.
And the stakes is not with the defeating the boss. We're not going to go into spoilers of it. It's about saving people and everybody. So like that's heroism. And so it's like, it's heroism. So it's nice to see that it's like, hey, our priority isn't to stop this guy. It's to save these people. And I liked that. Like that was a huge part of their story, was saving as many as people. And it was to a detriment of themselves, but they nailed it.
Right. Like who was Thor saving? I mean, other than
the kids of Asgard. He was saving the kids of Asgard, but it kind of, I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel cool. Like, it didn't feel worth it to me.
It kind of felt cheap in, like he could have gave. So you're saying he could have gave, and again, I'm not trying to shit on Thor Love and Thunder. There was a lot I liked about it. And if you like it, I'm super happy for you. Like just for me, I didn't want to see Gore the kidnapper. I wanted to see Gore the god butcher. So Thor should have been saving other gods, and then making
how it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And I honestly think if we had seen gods who are on the opposite side, who are actually helping people outside of Thor, we would have cared more about him saving them. One, we didn't see enough gods get butchered. And two, we didn't see any gods help people. All we saw was, Russell Crowe being kind of this pompous dick in Olympus, and they were like,
think about it, which is one of the points I want to add to this. I think Marvel needs to stop forcing the connection so much. Let's be honest, Russell Crowe's entire purpose of being in this movie is to launch Hercules' story. Right. And it's like, that's a damn shame that you're going to basically take the center of this movie to set up the sequel or to set up a future movie. And so many of them do this. The end of Wakanda Forever is to set up the next Black Panther. The end of, I mean, every one of these so far has been to set up the next one. Even what I would say probably the second best, that might be tough to say, of phase 4, phase 5, which is a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
That's setting up the next 3 Spider-Man movies. It's like, okay, now Peter Parker's reset. He's poor now. We get it. You're resetting things. But everything's about continuing the story. Guardians of the Galaxy, like you could continue that story, but you don't have to. You know, we know how that ends.
Yeah.
You don't have to continue that if you didn't need to.
Yeah, where they do get the continuation, and I don't know if it's a spoiler, just say for the end credits, but the chapter of the Guardians is concluded, and that's what we wanted to see. What you want to see in a trilogy is like you want to see something conclude. You want some resolution for the characters.
Closure. There has not been closure in the Marvel world since Tony Stark died. That's the last time we had closure in the Marvel universe, I think.
Yeah. You're right.
Chadwick Boseman's death too, but that was kind of a situational thing. But I'm saying storytelling wise, the last choice they made to actually give a conclusion is Tony Stark. And in this one, we had successful conclusions to stories, and they weren't necessarily like everybody died. They were just like, I'm cool with where you're at right now, and you can live your life, and I don't have to follow you through that part.
Yeah, exactly.
That's such a unique thing in the Marvel world.
It is. So even though, maybe a character doesn't die or does die or whatever, there's still some finality to it. And there still feels like the arc of this character, what we've followed them through 3 to 5 movies is finished. And that's the thing. You want to feel some completion to it. For a new Ant-Man movie, I don't know if I felt the completion. It totally, for me, just felt like an episode 1 to a series, rather than the finale of a series, which I thought was really interesting. And then, Thor: Love and Thunder. I understand that you want to evolve the character, but now when you watch Thor 1, if you just watch just the Thor movies, which I know you can't really do, but if you did, Thor 1 would look like a completely different person than Thor 4. And yes, you want some arc, but you don't want them to, you still want to respect the heritage and the history of that character, their base. Like I felt like I lost so much of that in Thor: Love and Thunder, just simply to make me laugh. And it's like, I want to laugh. I love laughing. I love comedy, but I don't want to just laugh. Like I wanted to feel something and feel some closure there. It was. I
want to touch on real quick, because I know we keep using the same 3 examples, but also Black Widow had some issues where it felt like it was just trying to introduce more characters to be used later on. Shang-Chi, I think, is for some reason not talked about enough, but that actually was a very good movie. Yeah. I'd say probably the 3rd best of phase 4.
Yeah, but so on Shang-Chi, I think it's because it is, again, and I'm not saying these are the 4 final points, but because the personal connection between Shang-Chi and his dad. Think about it, the villain of the movie is his dad.
And it doesn't touch the rest of the MCU until it needs to, until the very end.
True, but it has stakes for the ultimate world. They couldn't let out the big bad. They're not overly superpowered to where they're not infallible. There's several times where it feels like Shang-Chi is narrowly away from death. The connection to his father, and he's the one that ultimately stops the villain. It's between him and his dad. So I think through those things right there, it feels like it's more satisfying for me anyway. When I look at him, you're like, this is how a Marvel movie should feel. When you watch the first Iron Man movie, it's Tony Stark who beats the final bad guy and stops him because he has more knowledge. He knows how to use the powers better. Like it's him. There's nobody else coming in there. And yes, the world kind of gets expanded there, but the same thing for the first Thor movie, the same thing for the first Captain America movie. There's this finality, there's this connection there, and they're the one responsible for the conclusion.
One more thing too is Eternals was one of their. I think Eternals' biggest problem is it tried to be too big, and it was forcing itself to be connected in a way that kind of ruined itself. Like, okay, so you tell me there's this giant celestial just kind of in the water somewhere. It doesn't make any sense to be that way. So that was also fun.
You know what's interesting about Eternals, though, for me is I really liked Chloe Zhao's Nomads. I forgot what the movie was that she won the Oscar for. So I went into it. Before I watched Eternals, I watched that. And then I went into Eternals and I watched it and I was like, what the F did I just watch? I don't get it. And then now it's on Disney Plus, and I've seen Eternals probably like 3 times. And the more I watch it, the more I like it. But the problem now, when we got Eternals to now, is you want these characters to now pop up in other places. You want it to allude to somewhere more than a little footnote in a She-Hulk episode. So like I want some more connectivity between them. And also like again, it was so convoluted as to like, who's the big bad? Who are we trying to fight here? What's the problem? Like, is it the Deviants? Because they wipe out the Deviants at the end. Like, it's just Angelina Jolie versus Crow, and she takes him out. And then it's like, oh, wait, this other character. I think we could talk spoilers for Eternals, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's like, okay, boom, Icarus is bad. Like, what? Okay. I don't mind the twist of it all, but it just didn't land super well for me. And it just felt really confused as to what it was.
Okay. So to give some structure to this conversation, by the way, guys, again, this is just a test run. We're trying something new with discussion. One of the things I think we should do is, I think you did a good job of like making these points. And I think I should have just let you do your points instead of me overriding and adding stuff here and there, you know?
It's all good.
So things we're learning as we play around with this idea. But let's add some structure in the fact that like, okay, now going forward, what are the things that Marvel needs to make sure they do? I'll throw out the fact that I think that the stories need to be not as connected like they were in the Phase 1 era, but like going into X-Men and into Fantastic Four, I would be fully on board with those, not touching anything else in the Marvel for a while. I think that's completely fine with me.
I think that's a great point. I'm okay with them alluding to other things, but the adventure and everything needs to be started by a personal connection to the villain. It needs to have stakes where it feels like the main character could either, maybe they don't have to die, but maybe someone around them needs to die, or somebody that they care about needs to happen so that they can save other people. And the last thing is that they need to be personally responsible for stopping the villain.
Okay. I like that. X-Men to me, like the personal stakes between the two characters, it's already built in, right? Professor X and Magneto, to me, have the coolest rivalry in all of Marvel.
Absolutely.
And so that would be great. And then we could have the same kind of thing set up with Reed Richards and Doctor Doom. Make it to where there's something personal there. There's oftentimes something personal there, but go with the thing where he hired them to go into space and they got knocked by something, and then boom, there you go.
Right. Because I think that's the fun thing about both those examples that you just gave was Charles Xavier could have easily went to Magneto's side, but he chooses to oppose him, right? Same thing with Reed Richards. I mean, he's so genius. He sees the flaws in humanity, but he can be overly confident too. He could have easily became Doctor Doom, but they don't, because they choose to be on the right side of good, of saving people, of free will, and they don't, so they oppose each other. I think it's built in there. It's letting the characters kind of just, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like the right way to say it, just to like really build and letting the tension just kind of evolve because of them being on opposing sides, if that makes sense.
And then you go with characters first. So like Guardians of the Galaxy in the first movie would make very different choices in the Guardians of the Galaxy in the third movie.
Yeah.
Easily. And so you just let the characters build and become full characters, then they go off there. So I think both those movies, the new ones coming up, are really good ways of kind of like I would like to see X-Men explore, why would you want to side with humans when like on paper, Brotherhood's right in a lot of ways. It's just how you go about it. And then we know with the Fantastic Four, we're talking about them using Star Trek as their template. They've already said they're going to use Star Trek as their template for it. And the idea is that they want to make sure it's all about like hope and stuff like that, which Star Trek and future hope. And so like, okay, show us where instead of a future where there's going to be an apocalypse or something like that, like, no, we're going to shoot for the stars. We're going to put our money into science and discovery. God, I'm so ready to freaking root for a movie about that. So
yeah,
I think that's what we can get. And then maybe Dr. Doom's trying to like, oh, but I want to mine a asteroid. I don't know. We could have fun with it, but there's something there.
There's so much there. I mean, there's, decades and decades of history of making these characters compelling and making their rivalry with their villains compelling. It seems like it should be a no-brainer, but I think one thing that you said, which I super agree with, is that, let's stop trying to make it just connect for the sake of connecting, and let's build a story that's focused on the characters first and foremost. And then they need something that needs to be driving them. And so does the villain. And for some reason, the only thing that's stopping them is each other. And I love that. I love that just kind of naturally built in tension. It's
something that outside of this last Spider-Man, but all Spider-Mans nail. Like every Spider-Man feels like it's just him versus Rhino on the streets of New York. And if he fails, there's no one to save him.
Right.
Matter of fact, I just talked to the biographer not long ago for the Spider-Man biography, and he was bringing that up. The fact that it's like there's usually not anybody else to save New York except for Spider-Man, and that's why it's cool, because it's this kid from high school or college who's just like fighting LexCorp. That's just it. And it's so simple and so perfect. He doesn't need to go to Kansas and save something over there. It's all about Manhattan.
That's true. But yes, I totally agree with you. And I also think with the example of Spider-Man is there's stakes. Like sometimes I feel like Spider-Man may not win. Like I feel like he could die. He could get trapped. Even in Spider-Man Homecoming, which just came out on Disney Plus. So enjoy everybody in the US, which I went back and watched. It's so amazing. In that movie alone, in this first new Spider-Man, whether it's the Tobey Maguire one or the Tom Holland one, actually, you feel like he might not win. You're like, wait, the Vulture just dropped a building on him, or the Goblin is, about to like spike him with his glider. Like you almost for a second think that he could lose. And again, I didn't think Doctor Strange could lose or would lose his life. I didn't think Thor would lose his life. I'm trying to think of something else. Maybe Shuri, there was a moment. So that was close.
But I didn't think Wakanda itself was going to fall. I thought Wakanda itself was going to be fine. That movie, I think, is much more about Wakanda than it is. But I think, I was like, okay, if this all goes bad, the Wakandan people will always rise again. Like that's their thing. And so I thought Namor is not going to be able to be successful, especially when they showed Namor's people and I'm like, they seem beatable. Not to be mean, but they did.
So just make us feel stakes. And I don't think that takes away from the comedy. The comedy will be there. Like if you're a good writer, those comedic moments will naturally come out of drama. And it's like, give us something to hold on to first where we can root for something and then break the tension with the comedy. And James Gunn nailed that in Volume 3.
And give us those heartfelt moments, man. The heartfelt moments in Guardians of the Galaxy, I was tearing up a few times in that theaters. I'm going to be honest with you guys. There was a few lines that just got me so, Drax line, oh my God, got me so good. And I was like, son of a bitch.
I know,
I forgot all about that part of him. And it's a big part of him.
That's the thing. Each one of them had these touching moments. Like Mantis has a line that she says defending Drax with the kids, Nebula telling Drax, hey, I don't know if that's a spoiler.
That's the line. Yeah.
Nebula has a line and they all do. Seeing Peter Quill scream over Rocket, it was just like, oh my God, he cares so much for this.
Felt good.
I loved it. Endgame, Infinity War. I know these are movies that not every Marvel movie can be at those top tier. I get that. But the stakes were so heavy and deep in there. I'm like, God, just give us a taste of that. Make me feel like there's something to lose or these characters have something to lose. And man, I'll ride with you through everything. I'm like, I'm on board. Yeah.
All right, guys. What I want you to do is let us know on social media, Twitter, Instagram, everything, all links in the bio, what you think Marvel should learn from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Second thing I want to know is what do you guys think about us adding these discussions every so often to the end of these? We're going to be doing more of the top fives. We know you guys are big fans of top fives. And just like with top fives, when we make a standalone video for those, we're going to do a standalone video for the discussions as well. These are really good for times when there's not a lot of news and we're heading into summertime when most of the news is like, hey, there's a new movie that came out. Not a lot of production happens right now. So we appreciate your guys' feedback on this podcast. That's how we make it better and we continue to grow. But thank you very much for hanging out with us, guys. We appreciate it. We're going to go first off. Let's go to our recommendations.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, forgot all about that. I'm going to do mine real fast. My recommendation for you guys is to check out the video game Celeste. Very short game, really. It's like maybe 6 hours. If you're good at it. If you're like me, it's like 25. But this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And Celeste is a really good tale of identity and also mental awareness and mental health. So I just want to shout that game out. It's a really, really good game. And, look into it. Look into that game. It's always a really good deal. And it's usually free on Epic. You can find it at free often. So check that out.
Hell yeah.
What's your recommendation?
Yeah, first I want to say, man, you made me want to play that Celeste game. Yeah, definitely. Hey, yeah, man, take care of your mental health, and why not play a video game while you're doing it? That sounds awesome. But I love that you brought up the example when we were talking about, villains and connections in the review or the discussion. And my recommendation is an audio drama on Spotify. It's called X-Men, the audio drama. So freaking good. The voice cast is incredible. If you haven't listened to it, it's so awesome. It tells the story of the first X-Men that Professor Charles Xavier brings in. And man, they kill it. It's a nonprofit. So this guy who wants to be a director just kind of brought all these people in, and they're so damn talented. It's so good. I love it. Walks and all that stuff is so good. And then the other thing I want to say is it's a comedy. It's on Freevee, which is like Amazon Prime's like free app, called Jury Duty. So if you want to laugh your ass off, like Jury Duty's awesome.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, they're sending a lot of like Wheel of Time. They're sending a lot of their big shows over to it now. So I don't know if we talked about it before, but it's something I've been reading with the headline stuff, is these free streaming apps are actually super profitable. So like, hey, let's do that. Let's go back to ads for just streaming stuff. Okay. Roku's like raking it in off of that. So it's pretty interesting to see what they're doing. All right, guys, hit us up on our social medias. Let us know what you guys thought of the episode. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.